Hi guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to the Not Carrie Bradshaw YouTube channel. In this video, I'm reviewing season 2, episode 2 of The Gilded Age. We are back to talk about the low stakes wealthy in turn of the century New York. The girls are going at it, and again, the stakes are so low for most of the people on the show, but we're still here to chat about it. While I have you, be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, send money, don't send nudes, all the things. Okay, let's get to it. So the girls are gearing up to go to Newport for Mr. McAllister's party. Gladys and her bangs are freaking out. She's like, I cannot possibly go away for the week or for the weekend. I have some business that needs to be settled. Bertha is freaking out. Bertha is very much, I'm the mama around here. You don't tell me what you're going to do. So Mr. Russell, being the peacemaker of the family, goes to talk to Gladys. And this business is basically that Oscar has written Mr. Russell asking for an interview, which means that he wants to ask for Gladys's hand in marriage. And we all know that this is just a scheme for him to hide his homosexuality. And so we're really rooting against Oscar in kind of a way, because here's what, we get that it's not safe for you to be gay, but you shouldn't be wrecking this young girl's life in an effort to protect yourself. Find another way, right? Find a woman who's actually okay with a marriage of convenience. Don't try to convince this young girl that she should be. So George is like, I'm going to tell him what you want me to tell him. So how do you feel? And George is really getting her to understand that, yeah, somebody being funny and, okay is fine, but do you love him? Like, you don't have to have a marriage of convenience. You can actually marry for love. And they both agree that she can do better than Oscar, which we all know. So he assures her, like, hey, I will let him down easy. Go to Newport, enjoy yourself. Don't even worry about it. He does not. He does not let Oscar down easy, and I kind of love it. I love how George don't really play about his family, and I love that in a period piece like this, he's actually advocating for his daughter and not just trying to sell her off to the highest bidder. And Oscar needs to be held to the fire because Oscar is not genuine. And I don't know if Mr. Russell necessarily knows why Oscar isn't genuine, but he knows something in the milk ain't clean. So he was like, you can go somewhere with that. And I love that he backed Oscar down up off of his daughter and his family. I also found the line that Mr. Russell said to Gladys, where marriage is not the place to look for freedom. I thought that that was really interesting. My concept of marriage is a bit different, but I think even for someone who seems to be a bit progressive in terms of marriage, I'm sitting with what exactly he meant by that. Slide in the comments and let me know what y'all think he meant by that. So Aurora invites Marion to join her and her family or her husband in Newport because she has a man that she wants her to meet. This guy is a Morgan. He is on Agnes approved, and everyone's very excited about the prospect because the worst thing that you can be as a woman is unmarried, obviously. So and Agnes is like, oh, she would love to meet him. She would love to go. I know his mammy and them, they good people. Go ahead and go. Marion is kind of like, girl, I was going to go anyway, dial it down. They're still beefing about the fact that Marion has a job. Low stakes. So there is a tennis match at the casino. Everyone's very excited. This is the day before Mr. McAllister's party. So all the girls are dressed in their finest and they are at the function. Well, this man turns out to be a drunk, hot-ass mess. He doesn't pick up on social cues. Marion is not interested, and so she gets rescued by cousin Dashiell. I'm sure that we're setting up a plot line for the two of them to date, and like that's fine, except I have really been shipping Larry and Marion. And here's the issue with that, child. We meet the widow Blaine. Larry is going to redo her house. This woman is very candid about the fact that her now deceased husband was cheap. He wasn't social. They were in silence most of the time. He had gone deaf. And this woman, I ain't gonna hold you. She's thirsty and she's pressed. She's not even being shy about coming after Larry. Well, her and Larry end up sleeping together. there's something so off about her. It's not just that she's thirsty. It's that when she met Marion, she was immediately intimidated and immediately jealous. And it's like, babe, dial it down. You just got here. You got to tuck in your crazy. You can't let that man see that you're crazy already. Hide it a little bit better. Dress it up and make it real funny. She didn't do none of that. Like, she was very much like, you good to go because I'm good to go. Bertha is pissed. Bertha is like, you can't be rolling up in the carriage to this house in the wee hours of the morning so that you can have sex with a woman that's old enough to be your mammy. And he's like, what you want me to do? Sleep with prostitutes? And back in those times, that is what high society men were expected to do. You were expected to just use quote unquote sex workers. You were not supposed to sleep around with respectable, decent, quote unquote high society women. You sell your royal oats out here with the women who you can pay for that. And, you know, Bertha's biggest fear is a scandal. We cannot afford a scandal. And Larry is like, girl, I thought you wanted me to be happy. And it's like, girl, not at the expense of our family name. To hell without it. I just don't see it for the widow blame already. Some ain't right. So George surprises Bertha in Newport. This house is just unbelievable. I'm sorry. It's so fantastically large. This is called the Gilded Age. I get it, but oh my God, this house, it's like a hotel. So George is trying to economically seduce this union leader. So he's also there not only to join her at the McAllister party, but to also let her know we need to get this union leader on our side. So I need you to throw him a luncheon. We're going to wine and dine him. We're going to show him the finer things in life because we want to convince him that individual wealth is better than community. I hope this doesn't work. So at the party, Bertha reveals to Mr. McAllister that the Met Opera has invited her to be the chairman of fundraising because the girls at the Met are still beefing with the girls at the Academy in the most low-stakes war in the history of life. So McAllister is like, oh, girl, you sure? So he's like, well, I have a wealthy couple that I want you to meet, the Wintertons. It's a very wealthy older man and his younger wife. You need to try to draw them to your side. So Bertha is like, here's my strategy. I'm going to convince them to get a box at the Met and the Academy. We're going to play both sides. So imagine my surprise. Imagine my surprise when the wife turned out to be that trifling ass Turner. I knew that hoe was going to come back to haunt us. Bertha does not do a good job of hiding her shock at all. And Larry is like, what the hell going on here? And Gladys is like, oh no, your former footmate is now your neighbor in Newport? Gladys just irks me. I don't know what it is about her, but she, it's not just the bangs, something about her face, something about her, she is so irksome. Why is she so grating to me? Anyway, and Bertha is like, we're not going to say a word. No one's going to say a word until we get home, and we may not even say anything then. And it's like, girl, tuck it in. Tuck it in. Anybody who's looking can tell that you are absolutely shook. Because we know last season, Turner was trying to infiltrate their marriage. Turner was trying to slide her way up in there. She done found another way. And here we are. So now I'm pretty sure she's going to use this position. She's going to use this knowledge to manipulate Bertha. We'll see who wins in that low stakes war. So Oscar meets, and here's another thing. I think it's so interesting how the Russells are technically new money. And like you have to start from somewhere, but the idea that someone who once worked for you can't also be new money. It's like everybody's goal is to keep out these certain undesirables. Like white people love to tell other white people that they're not the right kind of white people. And I just think that's fascinating. So Oscar meets a potential new mate, this young girl who is basically orphaned and independently wealthy. She was living in Paris, so she's a little bit more worldly. They seem to have a really good banter, and he seems to be interested in her. Like he tells Aurora, like, oh, who that? What's she talking about? Like, what's her tea? And Aurora is like, don't even bother her if you ain't gonna be for real. Like, if you got to play with her, leave her alone. Here's what I think. One or two things is gonna happen. This girl has lived outside of New York high society. She's lived in Paris. She's a little bit more worldly. She may be into a marriage of convenience just so that she can navigate high society with more ease, or so that she can come and go as she pleases. Or she is more worldly because she's lived outside of high society in New York and she knows that Oscar is on some bullshit and she's going to tell him to fuck off. Either way, I think that being an independently wealthy young woman, gives that girl a little bit more freedom. She doesn't really have someone dictating who she can and cannot marry. Fortunately, Aurora is trying to look out for her, but we'll see how that story plays out, because I understand that it's difficult to be a gay man, particularly back then, but you should not be manipulating young women to hide your secret. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to navigate that, but that ain't the answer. So we'll see what happens with that storyline. So back on the Upper East Side, I completely forgot about the beef between Bannister and Church from last season. And Church apologizes, and Bannister is like, girl, I ain't got nothing. I'm still giving you a strong side eye. It's not necessarily water under the bridge. Jack is really interested in clocks. For some reason, the alarm clocks aren't working, and he's really interested in pulling this clock apart and understanding how it works. And I'm thinking that we're building a plot line that this will be his way up and out. Bridget is really jealous that he was talking to Miss Weber, and it's like, Bridget, you had your chance. You shot that man down. You need to just move on. Keep your jealousy to yourself. So Peggy is back in the game as Aunt Agnes' secretary, with the understanding that Armstrong won't be an issue. And Aunt Agnes is like, girl, I got you. Don't even worry about it. Now, also, the Reverend stops by, right? Now, both Aunt Ada and Aunt Agnes are both asking him questions to get to know him. Aunt Ada is obviously really interested in him. And when he leaves, Agnes makes her feel like an asshole. And I really hate that. Like, I think that somebody should have popped her in the mouth a really long time ago. But I'm gonna tell you what I do like. She's a real son of a bitch, but she don't play about Peggy. So Aunt Agnes tells Armstrong, if you want to keep your job here, you're going to have to learn to be nice to her. You're going to respect her. Otherwise, you're going to be the one who leaves, not her. So Armstrong bursts in tears, and she's like, girl, I'm too old to find a new job. Ain't nobody going to want to hire me. Don't nobody want to start over training somebody my age. And it's like, well, sweetie, your future is in your hands. You either going to put your racism to the side to keep your job, or you're going to be out on the streets. And racism is so insidious because she still continues to be an asshole towards Peggy. So it's like, you would rather risk homelessness, poverty, to be an asshole to a Black woman who ain't even really bothering you, who went out of her way to help you, actually. That's one of the things that I find so fascinating about bigotry of all kinds. It requires so much energy of the bigot. It would be easier if you just left people the hell alone and just moved on with your life. And it's easier to just not be an asshole. It's easier to not be an asshole. So Peggy has her job back there. Peggy also is still working at the newspaper. I was so hopeful that there would be some sort of relationship between her and the editor. Turns out the editor is married, and he and his wife suffered a loss of a child as well. So I don't know, maybe he and Peggy will bond over that. Despite the fact that he's married. I kind of don't love that story for her, but we'll see what happens there. That man is so gorgeous. Like, turn of the century, but also 90s fine. Like, he looks like he should have been in the background of a 90s R&B video. But he also, very randomly, because I never forget a face, had a random guest spot on Parks and Rec years ago. I'm sure I talked about that on a previous video. So yeah, Armstrong needs help with this, like, sewing and mending, and doesn't accept help from Peggy. Bridget is like, well, will you accept my help? So of course she will take it. But then Peggy still ends up helping her out, and she can barely bring herself to say thank you. And it's just like, I'm surprised you still welcome in this house. Bitch, me too. I'm surprised you're welcome here with your rude ass. And I'm happy that Peggy told her, like, I don't have no problem with you, but you don't want no problem with me. It's giving very much little scrappy. You don't want no problems. And I love that. Peggy, stand up. Stand up. Do not let these white women play in your face like that. Okay, so Mr. McNeil, he has such a skeevy little face. Do you know what I mean? It's something about his mouth. He just looks skeevy. So he slides through the Russell home. He's trying to go through the servants' entrance in church. Like, what you doing? This the front door, and Mr. Russell isn't here. And he's like, oh, I'm looking for, he refers to Watson by a different name. Okay, long story short, Watson wasn't there. McNeil has to tell George, I actually need to speak to one of your butlers, but you know, whatever, I'll just call on him another time. So when Church reveals to Watson, like, hey, this man McNeil slid through here and was looking for you. He said that he was gonna write you again. And Watson is like, yeah, he already has. And he has to spill the beans that his wife is actually his daughter and his life was very different. And I'm like, what was your life? Were you once a very wealthy person who fell from grace? What's the tea? Did like a very wealthy woman cheat on her husband and have a baby with you and you not, but like, what? I cannot wait for this story to unfold. And I'm surprised that he was honest with Church about this, because how you know Church ain't gonna go tell people? Because Church was like, oh, he's probably trying to poach him from us. Girl, it ain't even about this. I can't wait to see how that plays out. I don't trust McNeil. He seemed like he gonna try to wipe our homeboy out to save his good name, because again, low stakes. The biggest scandal would be if this high society wife's father, which she has no control over, is somebody's butler. The stakes are so low. So that's episode 2. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Again, I don't see it for the widow Blaine. She seems a bit too thirsty, a bit too pressed, a bit too old for our little Larry, and I'm still really pulling for Marion and Larry. I don't think this is the last we're going to see of that drunk Morgan boy, because he seemed really pressed about Marion, and I hope he just fucks off, but we'll see what happens. So slide in the comments, let me know your thoughts, let me know your predictions. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Also, shouts out to all of our new subscribers. Hey, welcome to the family. We are waiting for Rap Shit to start. I'll also be reviewing that on this channel, so I will see you guys soon. Bye.